I have personally purchased jewelry from John's jewelry store, again, Stephen Hill in San Rafael, and I still remember what I purchased, and it's been going on at least 15 years.
It's Stephen, not Stefan?
It is Stefan.
Sorry about that.
Stephen Hill, that's okay.
Stephen Hill, okay, I always wondered about that.
Okay, John, welcome to The Best of Investing.
Thanks, nice to be here.
Okay, now, first tell us about gold and platinum, because you mentioned something to me a couple of days ago I thought was really interesting.
Yes, I mentioned to you that for the first time in history, platinum is actually less expensive per ounce pure than gold. That's never happened before, and I told you partially why, which is because the automobile industry is so tied to platinum catalytic converters. When they're not selling as many cars, they're not using as much platinum, so there's a decrease in the market right now. So gold has soared above it.
Cool. Really?
Okay. That's interesting.
So Stefan, for like gold jewelry,
remember, his name is John.
Actually, John
Stefan, yeah, but he goes by John.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Sorry about
My
that.
mother's confused.
John, for gold jewelry, has it increased in price as much as the price of gold has been going up as we've been watching?
Sadly, yes. I feel like I can't quote on anything without checking with my mommy. But 5 years ago, pieces were half as expensive as they are now, and that's partially because you're paying for it with a dollar that's not quite as valuable.
Okay, now since we're approaching Valentine's Day, what should our listeners be looking for in purchasing jewelry? Because a lot of guys out there, listen up, because this is what your wives and girlfriends are going to want.
It's interesting that you mentioned guys, because we sell jewelry to both men and women, but guys, this is that moment where you buy something for someone that they don't necessarily buy for themselves. And I'm hoping that I'm speaking to grown-ups here, because maybe now it's something beyond candy.
Okay, so I shouldn't go into your store and try to buy a vacuum cleaner for my wife for Valentine's Day.
No.
Okay, I just want to make sure that...
It depends how long you want your relationship to last.
Yeah, my wife wouldn't care for that too much, I don't think.
So this is the moment that you look for something that they don't buy for themselves. I mean, that makes men feel useful, don't you think?
Absolutely, but in your shop, your store, I mean, you do things handmade, don't you?
Right.
Yours is special. I mean,
we manufacture at least half of what you see in our cases, and we collect the rest from Europe and all over the world.
Okay. I don't know if you guys have ever gone to his store, but the pieces are very, very beautiful. They really are. And each one is different. That's why.
But not all terribly expensive. So
that's good.
All price ranges.
Do you find that most men that when they come into your shop, they actually know what they're looking for?
The door, generally. So we try and calm them down. And
I like this guy. You got to have him on more often.
No. And that's the thing, you come in, ask questions, and by the way, nice is underrated. Nice will get you a lot of things, even when you're traveling, right? So ask questions. We are big blabbermouths and love to talk about what we do. Because we make things, I think it's more interesting. That's my job, is to remain interesting.
Are there any identifiable trends in what people look for in jewelry now? I know that yellow gold used to be really popular. Now it seems it kind of shifted to white gold and platinum. Is that really a trend, or is that just something?
White gold, stainless steel, by the way, is the new platinum because of the cost.
Well, I can afford aluminum. Is that
no aluminum foil?
Well, think about your watches, man. A lot of stainless steel watches there. Well, there's a lot of jewelry being made in stainless steel and titanium now. These are, nearly precious metals, and the nice thing is that they're so durable. If they're mixed with gold, it can be jewelry too. Yeah,
because I know, like 24 karat gold is if it's pure gold, very, very soft, isn't it?
Oh yeah, you can practically spread it.
Exactly. Okay, and where is your beautiful store?
We're at 1226 4th Street in downtown San Rafael.
And your phone number?
And 415-459-5808.
Okay, and you have a website too,
We do, StephanHill.com, but that's StephanHill.com.
Great. John, thank you so much.
I like that feature.
That is cool.
Am I free to go?
You're free to go. You did great. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay, you ready?
Ready.
Okay, here we go. Welcome. You're listening to the Best of Investing on News Talk 910, sponsored by Pacific Trade Exchange, your best in trade. This is the show where we present valuable information about real estate, the financial markets, and other economic business of the day. For those of you listening for the first time, here's our format. A few guys sitting around a bar having drinks without the drinks, talking business with you, the audience, listening in. I'm your host, Edward Brown, and I'm honored to have as my co-host Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money, California's fastest growing private lender, and Brian Burke of Praxis Capital. Our phone number is 888-912-1190. Write that number down, 888-912-1190, because you're going to use that number to answer the trivia questions for 3 vacations given away during each commercial break. That's right, we're giving away 9 vacations during this show. The vacations are sponsored by Lighthouse Resort and Marina, which is located 1 hour northeast of San Francisco, and the vacations are free. They only request a $75 cleaning fee to cover housekeeping expenses. Their website is lighthouse4fun.com. You can reach them at 916-777-5511. Ready for this? Today's trivia theme is famous voices from the movies. We've received requests for more Edward Brown voiceovers. Don't you love it?
Sure.
It's going to
Obviously, they haven't heard him before.
Yeah, thank you very much. Our website is bestofinvesting.com. Check us out on Facebook and YouTube by typing Best of Investing Radio Show, and we are also on television, Comcast Channel 26 on Saturdays at noon and Sundays at 6 p.m. Don't forget to record our show on the website called dar.fm. Quick reminder again, World Wraps in Corte Madera and Santa Clara is still giving our listeners a free smoothie with purchase of a wrapper bowl if you mention the Best of Investing. Now, today's special guest is Mitchell Brooks, and Mitchell Brooks is a managing partner for Resolute Security Group. He's had 27 years of corporate security management and law enforcement experience, and has been a global leader in providing security services to a host of Fortune 100 companies. During his tenure in law enforcement, he served as a detective, K-9 officer, and field training officer, and is recognized as an expert in specialized training in the areas of narcotics, investigations, and woof woof K-9 procedures. Mitchell, welcome to the Best of Investing.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, interesting business that you're in, and I'm just curious, how do you get into such a business? It seems like that would be something that would be interesting to a lot of people, but hard to crack into.
No, it's not necessarily hard to crack into. You just have to have a desire to be in security. Law enforcement helps. A lot of people that are in the private security realm are from the law enforcement background types, but we do have a lot of people in our field now that are actually just private citizens, and there's actually classes now at different colleges for security management. So they are learning about security, and there's a lot of different avenues in the security industry. I mean, you've got the physical security, you've got IT security technology,
right.
And there's field work, there's behind a desk work, investigations. There's a lot of different areas that security really the tentacles seep into.
So it's not this typical situation that you would think of where a guy tries to become a police officer and can't, so that he goes into security.
Well, that happens too.
Okay.
Some people just for whatever reasons can't make it in law enforcement, which we all know here that law enforcement is a very stressful occupation.
Stuff to get into.
Yeah, I was very fortunate enough to make it. My 2 sons now are in law enforcement also, so it's one of those arenas where not everybody's cut out to be that. But in the private security arena, it's tough also at times, especially being an owner of a security company. But it's a lot of enjoyment in helping businesses and individuals protecting their assets.
To go from law enforcement to security is a natural transition, but to go from law enforcement to business owner is a bit of a different transition, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, but there's a lot of things that are very similar. As a police officer, you're responsible for a beat. You're responsible to keep that clean. And as you move into detectives, then you have a whole caseload. It's the same thing, managing time, managing resources, the same thing as business, except you're managing money. In the private sector, money is really important, but in the public sector, as we all know, the government spends a lot of money, and it's our tax money at times.
I thought you were going to say that you were in charge of the beatdown, but
No.
Okay.
You're watching too many movies.
Yeah, too many movies, yeah.
So why do businesses even need security?
There's a lot of reasons, but the most important reason is protect their assets. And assets are anything that a company has that's very important to them. The most important asset is their people, from the CEO all the way down to the staffers in the office and out in the field. You need to protect your assets. In this competitive climate that we live in now, things happen. There's a lot of things that can potentially happen to a business and their assets. A very simple one, workplace violence. huge issue in our society
Especially
now.
at the post office.
Post office. We just recently had a workplace violence incident in the Bay Area at the school over in Oakland. And, there's a lot of things that can be done to prevent that, and, measures that can be put in place. Training to start off with. Security, that's part of the security realm, is training. The signs,
So we're not talking mall cop here. We're talking bodyguard, right?
we like to use an industry term, executive protection agent.
Got it.
Okay, more professional sounding. It's just not a bodyguard. A bodyguard, when you hear the word bodyguard, most people think of a bouncer, a big, burly person.
I'm thinking Kevin Costner and Whitney Houston.
He wasn't a big guy, but actually, Mitchell, you are a big guy.
Yeah, well, yeah, and you know what? That movie really portrays very well at times the role of a bodyguard or executive protection agent. Most people, when they think of somebody who is actually protecting somebody else, they think of the biggest guy in the room who can lift the whole building up. And that's not necessarily the case. You want somebody who can actually blend into an environment and really is there but isn't there.
Well, to diffuse the situation, mostly. I mean,
Have some verbal judo.
Okay. I can give you another example that most people can relate to, because when you start to talk about executive protection, think about the movie just a few years ago, Taken.
Oh,
Remember that
I
movie?
love that movie.
You remember the beginning of the
Liam
movie?
Neeson.
Yeah,
Yes.
Liam Neeson, yeah.
You remember at the beginning of the scenes when he's protecting the singer?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And what happened? He wasn't a big guy, was he?
No.
He was just an average individual, but he has that highly skilled training sets that help him maneuver through that area. But he also had a law enforcement background. He was a federal covert op, basically.
So on executive protection, are we talking mostly celebrities or just other high-ranking corporate executive types?
No, not actually. I learned a lot when I was in the police department. I went to a few schools as far as dignitary protection put on by the Department of Justice.
Dignitary, like that.
Yeah, but it's just not, protection's not for just your CEO or a VIP person. It can be for just about anybody, and through my time in this business, we've provided protection for those individuals also, but also for just ordinary people because of certain threats that occur at their business or in their occupation. I can give you one instance several years back where we had a shooting with one of our particular clients back east. And at that time, they didn't know who the shooter was, but they thought he was, or she, was basically singling out their employees. Well, we put protection, actual officers, with these individuals around the clock, and they were just your ordinary retail clerks. They just didn't know who was the target. So, and that went on for about 3 weeks, and finally the police were able to solve it. But it's just not for CEOs. The reason that protection is for CEOs, it's critical that those folks are never embarrassed. Some of these people run corporations such as Microsoft. If Bill Gates, something happened to him, just think what that would do possibly to the stock price.
Well, that's, it's funny. I thought about that where you have protection for ex-presidents, and I'm thinking, Carter and Clinton, and I'm thinking, who cares? Why does the Secret Service why do we have to pay for that? But then I realized, if let's say Clinton gets abducted, all the information that he has in his brain. I mean, there's a lot of security for the United States that has to get protected.
Exactly.
Well, plus it's embarrassing too. Just it's a national embarrassment if you're ex-president.
Well,
gets
that's a good
roughed
point.
up.
So here's a question, Mitchell. Before we go to commercial break, I want to see if we can answer this one. How do you quantify the savings? To the risk reward. Like, how much does it cost, and how does a company figure out if it's worth it?
Well, the cost, is in the private sector is a main driving factor of security. And when we sit down with a client, we like to sit in a setting just like this, just not without the microphones, and discuss exactly what they want. You can get the Cadillac coverage, or you can get what we refer to as the Yugo coverage.
Oh, wait, hold on. Does that mean that we'll protect you if you so you don't get killed, but we won't protect you if you get hurt?
No,
I'm teasing.
Yeah, no, but well, let me just clarify a little
Protect
bit.
just your arms, but your legs are open
Right.
season.
Well, let me just clarify. There's different programs you can put in place, and when I sit down with a client and we're talking about their security needs and what exactly they're looking for, we can layer the security approach. We can do things that aren't as costly. When you look at the cost, security is not a profit center. It takes money off of the profits to provide that security.
Sure.
But in the long run, when you start to look at security, just think of loss prevention agents. They stop shrinkage out of retail stores, which saves their customers money down the road. Think of cameras, surveillance cameras in a grocery store. Let's say you have slip and falls, workers' comp. If you can show that something didn't occur, that camera just saved you money. There's a lot of different access control systems to keep people out of buildings. So there's a lot of
Okay,
avenues.
we're going to continue this more with Mitchell Brooks, who's quite the awesome expert in security here. We're going to go to our first commercial break, and here's our first trivia question. Again, we are talking about, what are we talking about here? We're talking about trivia. The trivia theme is famous voices from the movies. Ready? In the movie 2001, A Space Odyssey, what was the name of the computer that would say, Dave, just what do you think you're doing, Dave? The first 3 callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Their website is lighthouse4fun.com. Call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. In the movie 2001, A Space Odyssey, what was the name of the computer that would say, Dave, just what do you think you're doing, Dave? 888-912-1190. Make sure to include your name, your email address, and speak slowly and spell out each part of your email address for us. And later on, we're going to announce the special winner of the trivia contest, and we will be right back.
Dave, just what do you think you're doing, Dave?
Excellent.
Cool.
Having fun so far?
How did I do?
You did very well.
Very good.
Yep.
Very good.
All right, so what else can we get into that's exciting? I guess we'll have to get into some stories.
Some stories, yeah.
Well,
Pretty good.
Yeah, we can do stories. I mean, I try to tie everything into what we do. I like to put a nice spin on security. Security most people look at security, especially the business people, and they think it's the dreaded evil.
Yeah.
And it really isn't. I mean, security can help businesses in a lot of different ways. And because I came from law enforcement, when you call a police officer to help you, you can't tell the police officer, go away, I'm going to call another police officer.
Yeah.
You're stuck with that person or people. When in our business, we have to provide a service, and they have to like us, and we have to make it cost effective. Now, I can tell you, we will, and I've done it. If we get a call, and let's say somebody has a threat in their business, and we say, look, this is how it should be handled, and we recommend this, this, and this, and they say, well, really, we have to cut some costs, and we don't want to spend that. I said, that's fine. Here's a number to another company that'll do it and take the risk. Our job is to mitigate their risk, and we also at the same time have to mitigate our risk because we have employees that we put out there. Very rarely do we have shootings, but they do occur in this industry with private security officers and also with executive protection agents. Before you go on, when I was a police officer in Richmond, and this is just to show you how bad the government is at times, in Richmond we had an incident where a housing authority, they had an employee they were going to terminate. They had worries about this person. They called the police department and said, hey, we'd like to have 2 officers waiting outside, out in the parking lot. And nobody followed any further. Well, when that person came in, they had a backpack, they had a gun in the backpack, they terminated the person, and they let the person walk back to their office without any escort. Came back, they started shooting people. Officers are outside. The only reason the person didn't shoot any more people was that his gun was a semi-automatic. It's stovepiped. I don't know if you guys know what that is. It's stovepiped because it was dirty. He threw the gun out the window, and he just stood there and waited for the police to come in and arrest him.
Dude.
So there's...
Well, look what happened. They just got rid of Ralph Barbieri. Ralph Barbieri.
They walked him out.
Yeah, I mean, they literally, because the computer and all that kind of stuff, and just even like an immediate boom,
Well, and a lot of businesses use security. They use plainclothes security, not necessarily armed, but when they're doing these workplace reduction in forces. So that's a big thing. Unfortunately, now it's been really big the last several years. But there's a lot of different things and stories. I mean, think about I guess it was last year, but back in London, it was broadcast live When the guy for Fox, the owner of Fox, or the chairman, Rupert Murdoch, when he was testifying, what happened? Somebody got into that hearing and attacked him. There was, the Bobbies were there and his private security was there, but they were able to get that close. And what security does in the private sector is we're the added layer of security. We walk. Most of your big CEOs, they have a protection detail. They blend in well, and then when they come to areas like this, they supplement that with private security.
When my wife graduated from Mills College, they had Nancy Pelosi and Barbara Lee speaking there. And you look up and on the rooftop, you can see Secret Service agents, and then who knows how many people were in there. But you just wonder, when the president goes out and makes a speech, I don't care if he's popular or not, there's going to be some whack jobs out there, and it seems a lot easier to knock somebody off.
Well, we just, like I was telling you the last time we met, we just purchased a company in Boston, and it finalized on Tuesday. Already this week, we're providing protection services for a princess from Saudi Arabia in Washington, D.C. We just got a detail down in Boston, actually, next week. It's the graduation season. They need 40 plainclothes people for that.
How much does it cost?
It varies depending. We try to be efficient and reasonable, but what we're charging is $55 an hour for an officer, $65 for the supervisor, and usually when we put 40 officers out, what we call a project manager, one guy who oversees, he's $75 an hour. And then any parking costs. There's some companies out there, you guys, have you ever heard of Kroll?
Yeah.
Kroll's out of New York. They're huge. Okay, and they charge for consulting services sometimes $350, $400 an hour. Okay, investigation. There's huge. Now the guys you see sitting downstairs or standing downstairs, those officers, they're probably anywhere from $18 to $23 an hour, and they're probably paying them $11 or $12 an hour.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, hey, you get to wear a gun.
But
You got to pay nannies $20 an hour. I don't get that.
And they don't get to
see,
wear a gun.
the difference is you want critical thinkers. When somebody
Yeah.
carries a gun, I don't know, do you guys shoot at all?
I know.
I used to be a police officer.
Okay, so
Did you really?
Yeah.
You
I didn't
understand,
know that.
when somebody's carrying a gun, it's just not the point of pulling your gun out and shooting. You gotta understand what's behind you, okay? There's other things, but what's your sight picture? Do you know how to tactically use your gun, okay? There's a lot of things, and when you put a gun in the hands of a security officer, just a basic security officer, in the state of California, they get what they call BSI training, Bureau of Security Investigative Services. It's a state agency. They get 40 hours of training. 16 hours is a different class for a gun. So,
Jeez.
where were you cop at? Where?
Runner Park?
Okay.
That's Sonoma County?
Yeah, I know exactly what it is. I did, you guys have State Farm up there? I did, I was out in that parking lot for a month for a workplace violence.
How long did you work?
I worked there for 14 years.
Really?
Say, you had 14 just like me. What got you out of it?
The private equity business.
Yeah, I retired medical. It
was more lucrative.
my knee.
Oh yeah, no, I was buying, fixing, and reselling houses in the daytime and working the swing shift.
Yeah, well, heck, maybe he could teach me how to get in this side of the business.
Yeah, that's true.
And then finally, I was making more selling houses than I was working the swing shift.
Well, sure.
So,
Okay, you guys ready?
Yep.
yep.
All right. Oh yeah, we'll get to the stories. Okay, ready? Here we go. Well, welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hanf and Brian Burke. And when we went to the first commercial break, we asked this first trivia question. In the movie 2001, A Space Odyssey, what was the name of the computer that would say, "Dave, just what do you think you're doing, Dave?" Everyone, what's the answer?
Dave's not here.
I don't have the first clue.
You didn't.
You don't
no
know?
sports, no movies.
Really?
Come on, Hal. Very good. All right.
What did HAL stand for?
Oh,
Was it an acronym for something? I don't know.
yes, it probably was. Well, we'll think about that at break time.
Is that part of the question?
And Mitchell, you were
Yes.
talking about being you own a security company. Give us some fun stories on radio here.
Well, one of the things about private security is you don't want any fun stories, but I have a few. If you have fun stories, usually you're not going to have many clients. So your job isn't to make your job is to make sure that your clients in whatever you're doing are not put in compromising positions, whether it's protecting a CEO, or if it's protecting their property, any of those things. I mean, you don't want to have a security guard standing outside of a building at night or inside a building, and the suspects are coming through the roof stealing everything while he's there. That's kind of embarrassing.
That's kind of bad.
Or like the Seinfeld episode where George gets the guy a chair.
Yes.
Remember, he sleeps in the chair
Yeah.
with all the. There you go.
And that actually, believe it or not, we do use that example because we have some clients, because when you put somebody on site with a client, they usually develop a bond. They try to take care of the person and make their environment as comfortable as possible. And we always have clients calling us about, well, can they sit down? And we are always telling them, no.
No, you gave him the most uncomfortable
Yeah.
shoes so that
Yeah.
they have to keep walking around.
You know, one of the things is, and when you're in law enforcement, first thing that happens when you're in training session, you're watching a video, you sit down and your eyes close. That's usually how it goes, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it goes in the private sector also with our guards. So we always tell them no, but the client, always insists. So, but as far as funny stories go, we've had a few instances. Like I said, I recall one over in the city. We were doing a protection job, and it was a number of agents. It was a model who was very popular, beautiful lady, and she married another actor. And a gentleman by the name of Bono came to the front door, and I was running the detail. And the job was nobody could get into the reception unless they were on the list. If you weren't on the list, you basically were staying out. Well, this gentleman, Bono, comes up, and the officer, he comes up and says, I'd like to go in. And the officer, basically the security agent, goes, what's your name? And he goes, Bono. And he goes, well, who's Bono? So, yeah.
Bono, something about that, right?
Well, yeah, and so he goes, well, he looked on the list, he says, I have no Bono, sir. So he said, if you mind standing over to the side, we'll see.
Yeah.
So here we have Bono, who, I don't know much about Bono either, but we've got him standing over to the side.
Biggest rock star in the world.
Yeah.
Okay.
He goes to the White House occasionally.
all right.
And so he's over there on the side. So we worked it out. And what was funny is we're trying to work this out. I come over, we're trying to, I can't remember the actor's name. I'm probably going to pronounce it wrong. Is it Van or Vin Diesel?
Vin Diesel.
He
Yeah.
comes walking over and says, hey, what's going on, Bono? And it's like, oh, we're kind of figuring this guy is somebody big, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you know what? It doesn't matter. If the guy's not on the list, it's like when I go to the bank, if I see a new teller and they ask me, sorry, sir, can I see your ID? I actually thank them. Because, listen, I don't care. You have to keep showing who I am if that's the rules.
Well, and that's the thing about security. Security is an inconvenience at times for people because it's rules, and we have to live within those rules. And
It's just airport security that's
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Well,
Talking
that
about
can be
the
at times.
TSA, yeah.
But it's there for a reason. It's there to protect you. And I agree. I've worked on both sides of the fence, and I understand. I'm a citizen also when I go through the airport, but sometimes it gets a little annoying. And there are better ways to do it. And every day,
Especially those pat downs.
yeah, every day
That's why you go.
every day we're getting better in our security and our approach. I mean, things change drastically, it seems like, from year to year.
But sometimes just the fact that you've got a security guy there with a gun, especially, is a deterrent. Just having presence, isn't it?
It is a deterrent at times, but you can put a person out on a post with a gun, and as we were talking off during the break, you can put somebody who's not as trained. So are they really a deterrent, or could they become part of the victim pool? Think about it.
Or are they the ones that just brought the weapon to the crime?
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
Can I borrow your gun?
So, and in our business, we do too, the company that I'm involved in, we do have uniformed guards. We have armed guards. We do investigating, we do consulting, we do surveillance. But when we put somebody out with a gun, we run them through training programs. We make sure that they know how to use the weapon. We like to hire a lot of retired law enforcement people for our high-end jobs. We actually hire private citizens, but they've gone through a lot of different schools. And there's several schools across the country that individuals can go to and get the skill sets necessary to do this kind of work.
Do you hire guys like Jason Stratham who can totally kick your butt if they don't like?
Who is that?
That's an actor that does all those movies where with a lot of kung fu action?
Oh,
Hey, you guys don't watch
or
TV.
Jet Li. That guy apparently was so fast in the Lethal Weapon movies. They actually had to slow the camera down. He was so
No, again, like we were talking earlier, it's not the biggest person. It's the most talented person. And usually the most talented people, are just average people. You wouldn't know it. Look at your Navy SEALs. Those
Yeah.
guys are just average guys. There's some big guys there too, but they're average guys. And that's the misconception that the public has about security. It's biggest is always the best. Not necessarily.
Well, it's the bouncer. You
Yeah.
know, in movies, the bouncer's always really big.
But every time you see the entertainers, their executive protection are always very, very big. Just coincidentally.
Well,
so
again,
it's-
I think part of it too. Again, it's just the impression. Like, I don't want to mess with that big guy.
yeah, exactly.
Well, but look at dignitaries. Look at the president. When you see the president on television and you see his protection detail,
No, they're just regular looking guys.
nobody sticks out. They
Yeah.
just blend in, and those individuals are highly, highly trained. And that's the level of individuals we have in our company, also in the industry for the most part. Those are the kind of people we draw from. Because when they leave after 20, 25 years of service, they bring that expertise into the private security.
Well, of course, because you don't want, like you said, you want it to be boring. You don't want all this, I got the biggest guy, he's going to, beat the crap out of you. It's the smartest guy who can diffuse a situation before it happens.
You definitely want it to be boring. We've had cases where we've come to confrontations. You try to avoid that at all possible, but it does happen. I know of a couple of one company that they were doing a shareholders meeting, and it became very heated. The company was
contentious, huh?
Yes. Ended up the CEO got a pie in his face. So yeah, and they had protection there. They had agents there, but that happens.
But was it a loaded pie?
I don't know
Oh,
that. So
And Mitchell, how do people get a hold of you for your service? What do you guys specifically charge for your services?
it varies. Again, it depends on what you're asking for. If you're asking for a uniform officer and certain qualifications, it could range anywhere from $1,750 for just a low-end guard, as we call them in our industry, upwards. I've seen companies across this country, they'll charge $150 an hour for an executive protection agent. But they're highly skilled individuals. You really look at that cost and you shake your head, but when you step into something, you want to make sure the guy next to you or the gal next to you can handle the situation.
Can they do your laundry while they're watching you too? Like you can kind of get two uses out of them? Or
Well, some of them do, but not in our company.
You guys have a website?
Yes, we do. It's Resolute, RESOLUTESG.com. And you can reach us also at our toll-free number, 877-774-2009. And we provide these services completely across the United States, also globally. And we, like I said to you guys during the break, we just purchased a company in Boston, so we are truly across the United States.
Thanks for joining us in the studio.
Oh,
Very
thank you for
interesting
having
stuff. All right. We are going to cut to our second commercial break, and here is the trivia question. What was the name of the movie in which Clint Eastwood says, and of course, that's being a cop at this point, right? He says, go ahead.
Make my day.
The first three callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Their website is lighthouse4fun.com. Call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. What was the name of the movie in which Clint Eastwood says, go ahead, make my day? Call.
Do you feel lucky?
Do you feel lucky, punk? Actually,
That's another movie, isn't it?
that was a different movie.
Right.
That's right.
Every
This
movie
one's
had to have its own
This
line.
one is not quite as easy. Okay. Call 888-912-1190. Make sure to include your name, your email address, and remember to speak slowly and spell out your information for us. And I'll tell you, it was not the good, the bad, and the ugly.
No.
And we will be right back.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Mitchell. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure meeting you.
You could have talked on this whole segment.
No, that's
No,
why we brought
yeah,
you here.
yeah.
That's why we brought you here. I'm just a real estate guy now.
Yeah, we used to do a lot of work with Petaluma PD because they used to train with us in canines.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, before you leave, what's the name of the movie?
Which one? The one you just said?
Yeah.
You know what? I don't know that one.
It's the most famous Clint Eastwood line, but the movie,
Yeah,
Magnum
I
Force.
don't
Is
know.
it
No.
Magnum Force?
Is that Magnum
it's
Force?
not Magnum Force.
Oh.
I didn't think so.
And it's not Dirty Harry.
I don't. Is it? I don't know if it's one of the Dirty Harry series. Is it?
It is,
It is,
but
yeah.
it wasn't either one of those.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because when you said the part where he has the suspect on the ground at the bank and the water's going off in the back and he's
Yeah.
like, you feel like he's drunken. I remember watching that as a kid.
He goes, I gots to know.
I got to know. All right. Well, thank you guys.
Okay,
Thanks
all
very
right,
much.
Thank you very much.
It was great having you.
All right. Okay, we're going to email time.
All right.
Oh, the email we received for Brian was, have you ever purchased a property only to realize, ooh, you made a mistake? Oops. Which is a little different than the one. What were the two? Remember the special trivia from last week? Name the 2 days in the year where no major sporting events are going on.
Oh, don't know that.
Oh. I don't know either. I'm such a sports fan, I should know.
That's
right.
right. I wonder if I can give the answer now on that. Oh,
Did
did you get this?
Oh, what do we have here, Edward? Oh, you showing off your legs again?
Showing up the legs. That's right.
All right,
Sometimes I
everybody-
forget these things are on. They don't because they don't.
Yeah, you don't feel it
I
after
don't
a
feel
while.
them. Yeah.
Well, why don't you just keep them on and parade down 4th Street?
Well, you know, I tell you, I almost went to the bank with them on.
Oh, that's
And
fun.
that would have been a little embarrassing.
The guard at the door would have had a field
Oh, I
day.
know. Yeah. It's a note that says, "Give me all your money."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that doesn't work very well.
Cover!
All right, we ready?
Okay, ready?
We can go a little
Ready.
bit long if you want on this segment. Just
We should probably go short because I've got to
you
be
got
out of here in
All
like
right, never mind.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
8 minutes or so. Or
Okay.
9 minutes.
Okay.
All right, here
Give
we
you
go.
more time.
Okay. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hunt and Brian Burke. And we asked this second trivia question. What was the name of the movie in which Clint Eastwood says, "Go ahead, make my day"? Gentlemen,
Well, I thought it was Magnum Force.
it's not.
I thought it was some Dirty Harry movie.
It is, but it's not Dirty Harry, though.
Ah,
The original.
see?
It is Sudden Impact.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
Ah.
right. Okay. Brian, we received an email for you that says, have you ever purchased a property only to realize you made a mistake? Oops. And what was the outcome?
Well, that's probably a good question, and since I should probably describe what I do so that
That would
makes
help.
sense.
That
Is
would help.
yeah, our company is Praxis Capital, and we purchase all different types of real estate that's in distress, both single-family and multifamily properties. But one of the methods that we use to purchase some of the properties is at foreclosure auctions, and of course, when you purchase at a foreclosure auction, you're buying real estate essentially sight unseen. You don't get to go inside the house. You don't get any disclosures. So it's a pretty risky method of buying property. So it would be very easy for most people to purchase property and make a mistake and go whoops after the fact. I haven't had any major whoopses in over 400 properties that we bought at auctions over the last 17 or 20 years.
Worst case scenario, just tear the
Isn't
house
one
down.
of the more common ones
Yeah,
where they
we're-
buy a second and don't know it?
Yeah, that is one of the more common ones, is that people make a mistake on the title. Not so much that they go, whoops, I shouldn't have bought this house, but
Right.
it might be more of, whoops, I thought I bought the house next door, but it turned out to be, they got the address wrong.
Or, oops, I bought it and I didn't realize there were all these taxes.
Tax liens, property taxes, a first mortgage, and they just bought it on a second mortgage, and now they have to pay the first off. I've seen that happen a couple times where you got, let's say, a $200,000 house, and somebody buys it for $50,000 and says, "I knew it. They told me on late night TV I could do this, and I just did it. And I just bought this $200,000 house for $50,000, and they don't realize, oh, it has a $200,000 first. I really paid $250,000 for the $200,000 house." So that's the type of thing we see usually as a whoops. But
But how do you protect yourself against it? You get title insurance.
Oh,
You do
well, you
title
can't get
report,
title
right?
insurance. So what
Title
what
report,
we
I mean.
do is we research our own title, and we research it by hand. So we go through county records on every property, and we look at the condition of the title, and we make notes on the condition of the title, and we go and do a drive-by inspection of the house, and we compare the assessor's parcel map with what we're seeing when we're on the ground. So we do a variety of things to try to confirm and dig up information, and that's the nature of this business. A lot of people don't understand that. They think that buying properties at a foreclosure auction is similar to buying properties from a real estate broker, where you get disclosures and you get title insurance and you get an escrow company, and when you're buying at auctions you get none of that. Essentially, you turn over a cashier's check for the amount of your purchase, and you now own the title to that house in the state that the lender had it, and that's all you've got.
And you have to pay all cash for 100%.
100% of it. Yeah, it's
So
not
you
like
come
you can
with
give them
cashier's
10%
check.
now and come back later
Well,
and
that's what
pay
they
the
do in
rest.
Hawaii, or they used to do that. Did you ever find out though that like does anyone ever come up to you after the fact and go, "Hey, I had an unrecorded deed"? You had that yet?
I haven't had that one. That's
Unrecorded deed.
what we have had is we've had that's my house, and I have list pendants on it because I'm suing the lender. We've heard that before. We've heard
Yeah, but if it's not recorded, then
if it's not recorded, it's not a matter of record on the title. So we hear a lot of different stories, and a lot of times they're false. Sometimes you'll see owners show up at the foreclosure auction and claim that they've slandered the title in one way or another, recorded this document or that document, but usually it's just a story to try to get nobody to bid. But the thing is, if nobody bids at the auction, the lender will bid and the lender will own it. And it's my personal opinion, if I were a homeowner, I'd rather have me as a buyer on the other end than the bank as a buyer, because they're
trying to deal with the bank.
Yeah, now you're dealing with the bank.
Bid. That's what happens. The lender credit bids.
Lender will credit bid, and then they'll own the house, and now you've got to deal with the bank even more. And you know how fun that was. If you're a borrower and you've just gone through 2 years of hassling with your bank to attempt to get a loan modification that never went through, you know how frustrating it is to deal with lenders. And if the lender owns the property after the auction, they're not going to get any easier to deal with.
Well, I think that's maybe the psychology that goes on with the borrower, the owner of the house is, I'm going to show the lender it's not worth that much, and then they'll cut me a deal.
Right. Yeah, it just doesn't work that way.
And you mentioned something that was interesting, Brian, that you research title by hand. So do you guys have your own in-house title facility? Is that?
Essentially, yeah, we do. We have access to public records and recorded documents. So it used to be back in the day, I used to spend a lot of time sitting in the recorder's office, which is kind of like a library. And back then everything was on microfilm. So every document you had to look at, you had to put a cartridge in a machine and fast forward it to the document that you wanted to see, and then rewind it and put it back and then go find the next one. Now it's instant. You can just click on it on their computers and it comes up on the screen. But now we've gotten advanced enough where we don't actually have to go sit in the recorder's office all day anymore.
Well, before microfilm, I guess it was all on paper.
It was, yeah, and in books, and you'd have to look at every page in the book and scan the pages for names. You couldn't even do any type of search at all. And even the indexes, when I started this 20 years ago, the indexes were on microfiche. So if you wanted to look up Mart Hanf, you had to pull the H out of the microfiche for each 6-month period that you wanted and put it in and search the name, and that's where you even got your list. It was a nightmare. I mean, now it's certainly gotten much easier.
Wow. Okay. Tell you what, Brian, you're going to have to leave us pretty soon, so we're going to have a short commercial break here. All right. On our third and final trivia question. Oh, by the way, how do people get a hold of you first?
Best way is to go to our website, which is www.praxcap.com, which is praxcap.com, or you can go to thebestofinvesting.com, and there's a link to our website there.
Okay. In the third and final trivia question, in what movie does Jimmy Stewart say, "Just remember this, Mr. Potter. Is it too much to have them work and pay and live and die in a decent room and bath?" You like that?
Nicely done.
Not bad. Okay, the first 3 callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Their website is lighthouse4fun.com. Call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. I'm going to try this one again.
Don't you just picture Edward sitting there watching movies all day long, pulling
I'm
choices
trying
out
to
of
figure out which one to
trivia
do.
question?
Sure. Well, I was going to do cartoons. I already did that before. In what movie does Jimmy Stewart say, "Just remember this, Mr. Potter. Is it too much to have them work and pay and live and die in a couple of decent rooms and a bath?" Yeah, that's not bad, actually.
Not bad.
Okay. Make sure to include your name and your email address, and make sure to speak slowly, and please spell out each letter of your email. Information for us, and we will be right back. All right.
Thanks, guys. Sorry I had to bug out today
That's
early.
okay.
It's kind of a bummer, but
Is this
Let it rip, boss.
rolling, roll it,
All right,
rawhide. Okay, here we go, boss. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, that's right. I'm here with Mark Hunt. Brian had to leave us today, a little early. And here is the third and final trivia question. In what movie does Jimmy Stewart say, "Just remember this, Mr. Potter, is it too much to have them work and pay and live and die in a couple of decent rooms and a bath?" What's the name of the movie?
The only Jimmy Stewart movie I know is It's a Wonderful Life.
It's a Wonderful Life. That is correct.
I guessed it right.
Very good. Okay, now last week we had a very special trivia contest, and the question was name the. Well, here let me give you
what's
first
the prize?
Where's the prize? First of all, the prize was the Vichy Springs,
Yes.
and it's the best of two worlds: a country inn and a hot springs resort with 26 rooms and cottages that include their world famous naturally warm and carbonated mineral baths. Ah, sounds good.
I want to go there this week.
I do. Hot soaking pool, Olympic-sized swimming pool, and 700-acre private reserve for walking and exploring. Breakfast is included, and as are all resort activities. And Vichy Springs is just 2 hours north of San Francisco and 1 hour north of Santa Rosa in the North Coast wine country. And here was the special trivia question. Name the 2 days in the year where no major sporting events are going on. Answer?
I don't know the answer to that one.
The day before and the day after the baseball All-Star game.
Are you kidding me?
No, well, it's not basketball season, and football season hasn't started yet. And curling we don't count. So, and our winner was James from San Carlos. Congratulations.
All right, James, way to go.
Way to go. Enjoy that time at the Vichy Springs. Okay, now, Mark, we received an email for you. Here's the question, and this is obviously coming from a borrower.
Mm-hmm.
How do I know if you give me a commitment that you will actually fund the loan?
Indeed. So anyway, I'm the broker for a company called Pacific Private Money Loans, and we're based in Marin County, and we're basically a hard money lender, and or private money lender, as we oftentimes call it in this new PC era we're in. And private money lenders, hard money lenders, essentially these days are making loans to real estate investors, people who are trying to buy, fix and flip real estate, or maybe buying rental property. The banks, for the most part, have really, since the whole subprime meltdown fiasco, have really pulled out of the real estate investment lending market, particularly for single-family residences or 1 through 4, duplex, triplexes. And if you're a real estate investor out there, that's probably the market you're looking at in the Bay Area is, how can I buy some bank-owned property, maybe fix it and flip it for a profit, or maybe I like the fact that rents are really super strong right now, and so I want to buy some rental property because, real estate in the long run is always a great investment. I mean, you get depreciation, you get to write off your interest, and ultimately there's going to be appreciation again, one of these days, right?
Eventually, sure.
Eventually. So the question is, and I get this from borrowers all the time, is, can you make me a funding commitment? And here's the interesting thing about the private money and hard money lending industry today. It used to be years ago that many hard money lenders used a mortgage fund from which to lend from. So, and what that meant, if you have access to a fund and someone calls you for a loan, it's really easy for you to make a commitment right away. Or at least as soon as you've reviewed the borrower's application, you can pretty much make a commitment. Well, funds have largely fallen out of favor among investors, not real estate investors, but the private money investors, the people who are putting their money up to make those loans. Oftentimes they don't like investing in funds these days because a lot of funds lost money, and in fact there are some non-performing funds still right now in existence where people have their money kind of frozen. They can't get to it. And the reason for that is because they made loans and the real estate market bubble popped, and so now those, like many other real estate, those loans are upside down. So nowadays, I would say most private lenders, like Pacific Private Money, use individual lenders to fund their loans, and so it makes it a little bit challenging because it's not our money that we're lending out; it's investor money. So we become nowadays a matchmaker, and by that I mean we market for loan applications, largely from experienced real estate investors, and then we match those up with our stable of private lenders, and right now we've got close to 300 private lenders.
Well, I've grown quite a bit.
Yeah, I won't call it a pool of lenders because, again, I don't want to confuse it with a
pool.
mortgage pool. But we've got about, well, actually including the people on our newsletter distributions, we've got over 300. And at any given time, there's always going to be someone who's liquid and looking. That's kind of what we refer to that as. Someone who's, excuse me, who likes to invest in trust deed secured notes, which is what we call the funding side of the equation. And for that, they get great interest rates on their savings, 8 to 10% on average. So, our track record is as good as our ability to basically say, we want to do the loan, and, give us 24, 48 hours to get a funding commitment. So, generally speaking, it just takes us a couple of days once we've got the loan application in to get those funding commitments. But it's still, it's not a promise. It's not like we're not a bank, so we can't go to the federal funds window and, start the printing presses up. So it is a best efforts situation.
Well, has there ever been a time when you've given a commitment that you weren't able to fund?
I'd be lying if I said no.
Okay.
Because we do a lot of loans. We're on an annualized basis right now doing 200 loans a year. We've been doing it now for we're in our fourth year. So, I can't say we've never left someone at the altar, but I will say it hasn't been our fault. And it's generally, the one time that I can think of that it's happened in the last 6 months, it happened because the borrower didn't tell us everything that we needed to know. And some information came of light at the very end, and there was moving parts, and so we actually had a commitment, but then something came up, and
that doesn't count. Because if they don't tell you, I guess what I'm reading from this email is basically someone who is, let's say, really honest,
Mm-hmm.
and he wants a loan from you.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a situation where you said, we're going to get you this loan, and then you guys didn't come through for some reason?
No.
Okay,
The only time we've failed to fund a loan is when there's been so much hair on the deal, as we sometimes refer to it in this business, that sometimes it's the borrower just, I want a hard money loan and I don't want to give you any information. So it's
that's totally different. I mean, if the borrower comes,
if
the borrower comes and tells you ahead of time, look, it's got all this hair on it,
Mm-hmm.
you can decide the answer is no, we're not going to give you a loan.
Yeah.
But once you've said yes, as long as the borrower hasn't, surprised you with anything else, you've always funded.
One of the challenges in people who come to who apply for a hard money loan these days is if they've ever borrowed from a hard money lender in the past, say 10 years ago, they'll remember a world where they call it a hard money loan because it's based on the hard asset. It's basically based on the equity of the property. So, for example, years ago, it really, for many hard money lenders, it didn't matter who owned the property or what their story was or what their situation was. They just looked at the property only, and if the property had the equity that was sufficient, then they would more than likely make a loan under certain terms and conditions. Nowadays, we are a little bit more bank-like, and that's because a lot of my lenders have been burned before, but they're coming back because they still believe in the yields. They love the yields you can get by investing in a trust deed secured note, which you can't really get anywhere else easily, at least not with the security features that a deed of trust offers. And so in order to get that 8 to 10% yield, they're coming back but now they're a little bit more careful, and so now it does matter to them. Tell me about the borrower. What's the borrower's credit history? Can we get his tax returns? I mean, we don't always do it based on tax returns, but the more information we can get on a borrower, the more transparent the borrower is willing to be about himself, his experience, his credit profile, the easier it is for us to quickly fund his loan. And moreover, we can generally get lower than what used to be traditional hard money rates, like
12, 14%.
Yeah, right, 12, 13, 14% was fairly normal for a no questions asked hard money loan. Well, nowadays we're if the borrower has a high FICO and is willing to share his financial information, oftentimes we can offer interest rates that are more compelling. So, for example, it's not unusual today for us to make a single-digit note rate. So, in other words,
2%. No, I'm just kidding.
Gosh, I wish. I wouldn't know how to make any money on that. Or at least my These don't
borrower,
get
your
paid by
lender
investors
would,
any
yeah.
money, but no, we're doing we're closing on an 8.5% commercial loan next week. That's on the low side. In fact, 8.5% is I've done several loans at that rate, and it's the lowest rate I've been able to achieve this year. But it's generally when it's well below 50% loan to value, and there's a strong borrower or a very compelling story or a very compelling exit strategy. I mean, there's some combination of factors that make that loan so compelling that the risk is really, it's really defined. You know, you can really define the risk. The parameters, the risk parameters, are very easy to judge, and so it's almost like a no-brainer, as we like to call it in
Okay,
business.
well, how do people get a hold of you if they want to borrow money or if they want to invest with you?
Well, if you're interested in looking at what a private money loan might be able to do for you, help you leverage your real estate strategies, go to our borrower site, which is pacificprivatemoney.com. Of course, all one word, pacificprivatemoney.com. And if you want to learn more about trust deed investing, so you can maybe earn 8 to 10% using your IRA monies or your savings, in fact, any money you have, we don't care. Go to pacificprivateinvestments.com. That's Pacific Private Investments.
And you can always go on bestofinvesting.com.
Indeed.
Okay, thoughts for the day. Radio waves travel at 186,000 miles per second, which is the same as the speed of light. Sound waves travel at 700 miles per hour. So a broadcast voice can be heard 13,000 miles away than it can be heard from the back of the room in which it originated. And I always wondered why it took you so long to react to my comments, Mark. And Hallmark makes cards for 105 different relationships. Gee, and I thought I was a player. Oh, now I get it. Okay, next week's guest will be David Vogelstein, a high-profile attorney who will discuss white-collar crimes with us. You won't want to miss it. Tune in next week to the Best of Investing. We're going to be giving away 9 more free vacations for answering trivia questions, and get ready for another special trivia contest soon. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best of investing. So long. Perfect timing.
Wow. I didn't realize I was running long.
Oh, yes.
Wow, that's good.
Well, it wasn't. No, it necessarily wasn't. But necessarily wasn't you. I like it.
Yeah.
You got the most comfortable hats.
I'm gonna get a
Yeah, I
couple
like
of you.
the videos on hat too. It's
Yeah.
got the right shape. It's not too big.
It's just very comfortable. And it's funny, I'm not a big hat